The news is finally out. New LR Super 17 is coming to JP and Global Dokkan. Later, actually tonight, the banners should drop depending on your time zone. So, if you guys have seen the news, I'm going to be covering the good, the bad, and the ugly about this unit. I had a chance to go over the details, look it over, and so this is going to be an all-in-one video. I'm going to go over the super attack animations, the passive, the leader skill, what this character does. So first, let's dive into the super attack animations and see what they look like. So if you guys don't know, this is an extreme tech unit. It figures that they are going to drop Super 17 as an extreme tech unit. So the first category that we're going to dive in, what is good about this unit? So let's check out the super attack animations, which I believe are what is good about this unit. So this looks like it might be the 18 key. This is what it looks like, I believe, the active skill. And that KO screen. Stop this. So those are the super attack animations. I think that is probably the first thing that is good about this unit. Super attack animations are very clean. They are really well put together. It's probably taken right out of the anime. And overall, I think that's probably one of the better things about this unit. So that is the first thing. Second thing is shout out to the Dokkan Wiki, who already has the information out for Super 17. Extreme tech, his leader skill, his super attack, we'll all go over that in a second. His stats. His stats are what's good about this unit. So he has very high HP. He has high attack. It's not the highest I've seen. I mean, he's not top 10 attack, but for an LR coming out now with all the power creep, his attack will be good given his passive, which we'll go into in a second. However, what's really high on this unit is his defense. His defense is top 10 of all the LRs, I believe, in the game. So I think he's like 6 or 7 top defense. So his defense is going to be very good. He'll be a very good first rotation defender, or first slot defender, I should say. Overall, his stats are very good. So they did get that right. Next, this might be a little bit arguable. Now, granted, this is just my opinion, so don't go off the deep end if you disagree. His leader skill, I think, is actually decent and good about this unit just because, one, GT bosses and androids. I'll go into why they included androids in a second. With GT bosses, key +4, attack and defense plus 150%. His leader skill, one, I don't know why they didn't give him 170% lead. They might save that for maybe a TUR that's going to be released later, maybe a transforming Hellfighter 17 that could come in and be a GT bosses category leader of 170%, or they're going to maybe make another baby that's a TUR and give that one GT bosses 170%. So that could be the reasoning why they didn't give him 150%, although it doesn't really make sense right this second. It could make sense later on. So his leader skill honestly is not bad. I mean, he will give a pretty decent buff to that category, and he's giving key +4. So if your team is going to struggle with key, they'll be able to help it out. So next is his links that are pretty good. So he has Android Assault, Fear and Faith, Fused Fighter, Nightmare, GT, Fierce Battle, Legendary Power. Now, his links are good with the exception that they did not include big bad bosses on his link set. Maybe they felt he would be way overpowered with big bad bosses, but he honestly needs it because if you're going to be the category leader of GT bosses, you should have big bad bosses. It just goes together. Why they didn't do that? Again, it might be they're not trying to make him so OP. But other than that exception, his link set is pretty good. He's going to link up very well with the androids. For example, AGL Android 13. Before his transformation, will have 4 links. He'll link up well with the Shadow Dragons army that came out in JP that you get from Battlefield. He will link up very well with him. I believe he'll also have 4 links. So his links are good, and his actual categories are good as well. He's on a number of different teams, so you do have some flexibility with him. Now, that is what's good. So the bad, we'll get into now. So the category can also is half good and half bad in the sense that it's good that he has a number of categories he is on. It is bad because GT bosses does not include the Hellfighter 17. Now, honestly, we could attribute it to Dokkan and Katsuki and whoever decided to put him on these categories and whoever made the GT bosses category. So you can't really attribute this part to this unit. So we're gonna ease off of basically ripping him apart because GT bosses should have included Hellfighter 17 because he is probably the best linking partner for this Super 17. Now, the AGL Super 17, who got his EZA, would have been the best linking partner, except they don't link. So they don't, because they have the same name. So whoever decided to name him Super 17 obviously was like, didn't really care that he wouldn't be able to link up with obviously one of the better TURs in the game, who actually, when he got his EZA, became a monster of a unit. They just didn't link him together. So even with the same name update, they're not going to be able to work well together. So I don't understand why they did what they did in that sense, because you have Hellfighter 17. I'll pull them up right here. I think this is the first one. The TUR int Hellforged Warrior Hellfighter 17 is Android Assault, Fear and Faith, Nightmare, GT, and Fierce Battle. So he linked up super well with the tech unit. However, unless it's unknown to us that they're giving this unit an EZA, who's going to run this unit? You're not going to be able to run him on the team with Super 17 and have him linked up well and go into any difficult contact because he'll just get blasted. So I don't understand why they would not stick him on GT bosses. The other, I think this, no, that's baby. I think it's this one. Here's the other Super 17. Or excuse me, Hellfighter 17 that you get from the World Tournament. So he has a, this unit is a little bit better in the sense that he has a passive that will give support. But again, are you really going to run this unit on a team with Super 17? Probably not. Most likely not. So the the options you have, and this is AGL Super 17 that we'll get into a second. The options you have for running him with his linking partners are very limited. And so that is why that leads me into the next portion of it, the other part of the bad, which would also be his one, passive skill, and two, his secondary leader skill. The reason why they stuck him with a secondary leader skill of, get back to it, androids, is because there's no way you can run him on a team and have him work well with any other unit just by giving him GT bosses. So they had to stick androids on there because they're going to want you to create some hybrid GT bosses android team where you can actually run Super 17. So instead of changing the category up a little bit to include certain units, they actually just gave him this leader skill and said, okay, we really don't have to do anything. We're just going to stick him on GT bosses and androids, and then that should cover us if you want to run this team. Which doesn't really do it justice because you have no one to run the Super 17 with that's viable, at least on global. JP is a little bit better off because they have that Shadow Dragon army unit, but you're not going to be able to run this guy on global successfully if you just want to do a GT bosses category. You're going to have to bring androids on there, which honestly is not ideal because they're not going to really link well with the rest of your team. You might as well just bring all androids. So that part is bad. The other part is bad is his passive, and I'm going to go through it while I'm talking about it. So his passive skill in terms of buff is not bad because he gives a decent buff to himself and gets an additional attack and defense per ally. The problem with the passive skill is that it only buffs based off of target Goku enemies and androids, which is essentially all you can run with him. And that, for his purpose, is supposed to be a leader of GT bosses. So you don't then give him androids and target Goku as his buff. Like, what was that purpose? That passive skill is bad for his purpose, I should say. His passive skill in terms of buff isn't bad, but in terms of his purpose and what he was supposed to be used for, given it's a GT celebration, should be centered around getting a buff from GT bosses, giving a buff from maybe Baby, Shadow Dragons, any other GT boss that they have in the game. He should have got a buff, and he should have been designed towards that, not androids, not target Goku. So his buff essentially is he gives himself 170% attack and defense. Then he gives himself another 17% attack and defense per android's category ally, not including himself, in the same turn. Then he gives himself another attack and defense plus 17% per target Goku category ally, attacking in the same turn. So hypothetically, if you have two units who are both target Goku and androids, which I believe all androids are target Goku, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they are, he'd be giving himself 68% attack and defense. If you have two units in that same rotation, they're both target Goku and androids. So next, he reduces damage received by 17%, and then plus an additional attack plus 17% for 3 turns after the turn in which attack received. So it's not even the same attack or same turn that he gets the buff in which he was attacked. They made him wait a turn. Why? Why would you do that? Especially since the Easy A Super 17, and we'll bring him up just to compare him. He reduces damage by 40% right off the bat. Then gets an additional reduction of 6% up to 30 with each attack received that same turn. Why would you then give him damage reduction only 17%? I get it to play off his name, but and then wait a turn. Like, you want him to be decent and be able to tank right away. Now his defense is high enough, so he should be okay without the damage reduction. But if you're going to give him that skill, it should be like when he receives an attack. Because if you follow the anime and watch that Super 17 like series of it, he gets buffed right then and there. He doesn't let him wait for a little while and then say, okay, let me get my buff. So that part of it is bad. It's almost dipping into ugly, but it's bad. So to like sum up, the last part of it, he gets a high chance of receiving key +1 with each attack received up to 7. Okay, doesn't really do it. I mean, he'll get more key, so he'll have an easier chance of getting his 18 key super. But with the links he has, he should be pretty well off to not really struggle for key, especially if he's linked up with androids. He should be good to go. So that key part shouldn't be too much of an issue. So maybe they didn't really need to add it, but it doesn't hurt. So in summation of it, you get 68% if you have those two allies, and then the next turn, if he gets attacked, he'll get another 17%. So he'll get 85% increase of attack of attack, and then 68% in defense. They should have made this a lot more interesting and a lot better. They could have gave him support from his allies, or gave his allies support since he was a leader skill. Maybe increase 17% per each attack received up to 5 or up to 7. Like, do something that was more in line with how he was in the anime. And it might sound like I'm just shitting on him, which I kind of am, but I'm also a Super 17 like fanboy. I really liked Super 17 in the anime. Not many people did. They kind of thought it was meh. I really liked him, so this for me like hits a little bit home because I honestly loved AGL Super 17 after God's EZA, and then when they released this unit, I was like, okay, like he's gonna be great, and then we got this. So take that like as I'm actually like kind of analyzing what's going on, and because of how disappointing he is just on paper, it's kind of like make me take a step back and say, well, why are they doing this? And honestly, I think they just kind of dropped the ball, and they don't really have enough units in that category to sustain a Super 17. Honestly, they could have just changed the category, which would have been a fix. But this is why I think they're putting this passive in there and structuring it so, because he isn't viable in GT bosses. I mean, maybe later on when they have more GT bosses, he will be better, but they're just straight up making it like a straightforward, okay, he gets this attack and defense, instead of making it more interesting, more structured, where he will give support, he gets attack and defense, and he'll build up, which I think will have helped him in the long run, as opposed to he just straight up gets it, and then you might get, if you get attacked, you'll get 17% attack and damage reduction for 3 turns. And also, why 3 turns? That didn't happen in the show at all. So what? 3 turns? Okay. So the next part is going to be the ugly. So you probably say, how can this get any worse, really, after I just ripped apart the passive? Passive is bad just because he gives himself a good buff, but the ugly part is, one, when you're trying to run him on GT bosses category team. So I just cover that in part of the bad as well. That is ugly. When you try to run them on GT bosses, it's gonna be terrible. You're unless once we get the Shadow Dragon's army, that might be decent. But on global, when you try to run them, it's not gonna be great. So he'll put up good numbers, high stats, but in terms of viability on his teams, it's piss poor essentially. So the only other caveat I can think of is if they allow the same names to link together. Then when you link them with Super 17, that's going to be a fun duo. But until then, or until they make a transforming Hellfighter 17, he is pretty much on his own, and you're going to have to link him with Android 13 or the Shadow Dragon's army. Until that time, you're really stuck with what they gave you. So then the other part that's ugly is his super attack effects. Not his animations, his effects. So fine. So this is active skill. We'll start with this one right here. There's active skill, Electro Eclipse Bomb, causes ultimate damage to the enemy, and lowers attack and defense by 70% for 1 turn. So the lowering attack for 70% is good, given that he'll have damage reduction for 3 turns. And his defense is high. He's not gonna really take any damage when that all is coming together. However, when you try to activate it, it can be activated after he receives attack 7 or more times in battle, once only. 7 or more times, I don't know exactly how to feel about that, because there are times in Super Battle Road or Extreme Super Battle Road or the GT Goku event where they're going to attack a lot up front. And you stick him there, you might get hit 4 or 5 times, and then maybe turn 3. Well, no, you're still even after turn 3. So the earliest you're probably going to do it is maybe turn 5. Which isn't terrible, but that's counting on you getting hit a lot in the first turn. So if you were going to make that condition for its active skill, you probably should have made his effect a lot stronger. Like greatly raise attack and defense for 1 turn, or causes more damage, or any of that sort. Lowering attack and defense by 70% is really not that big of a debuff to the enemy. So, and also lowering defense does nothing. Doesn't do anything. Might do a little bit more damage, but lowering attack is much more of a skill than the defense. So his effect is ugly. His other super attack effects, it raises attack for 1 turn, which is good, causes colossal damage to enemy, and then lowers defense off his 12 key. Again, lowering defense, not a good skill or the super attack effect. Same thing, causes mega colossal, which is good. Greatly lowers defense, doesn't really do anything. Lowering attack, maybe increasing your damage reduction would have been good. So like, literally just thinking off the top of my head, they could have maybe greatly lowered defense instead of greatly lowering defense. They should have maybe greatly raised his attack, and then off his 18 key, chance of doing additional super. And let's say if you receive an attack first before attacking, you massively raised attack with like a chance of doing like a crit or doing an additional super. That could have been a good 18 key super attack effect, which would have been a line of how he actually operates in the anime. When he gets an attack, he absorbs it and then gets a huge buff from it. That would have been a lot better 18 key active skill than causes mega colossal damage and greatly lowers defense. So honestly, I'm kind of disappointed with this unit. We'll see how he is in game. I'm hesitant whether I even want to try to summon for him, given that there's the sixth year. Getting a little ahead of myself. The 6th year is right around the corner, and it's a legendary summon banner. So honestly, they could have did a lot more with this unit and could have designed him a lot better and centered him towards the GT celebration. Instead, they kind of made it more about the androids category, and we've covered why, and I understand why they did because of how the category is, but that's a problem that Dokkan could have fixed himself by adding more units into the GT bosses or structuring this unit differently where he would have been a lot more viable. So unless they plan on releasing a transforming Hellfighter 17 that transforms into Super 17, this unit is really not going to go anywhere till later on in this GT bosses category. So honestly, they really need to easy A one of the Hellfighter 17s so he will link up well and realistically finish off what they started with this unit, because it's not going to be great when this unit comes out and you can only run him pretty much on the androids category unit with some GT bosses. Like, I don't even think he really links up well with Baby, which could have been a decent linking partner for him. But see, like Baby has GT big bad bosses, shattering the limit, the legendary power. So the only links that Super 17, the tech unit, has is GT and legendary power. So he has 2 links, which legendary power will give him 15% on super attack, and GT gives him E+2 attack and defense plus 10%. So would have been, that link is decent for him. Would have been a lot better with big bad bosses. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments of Super 17. What you thought they could have done differently, if you think that's just awful what they did, or you actually really don't think he's not that bad. So let me know down in the comments your guys' opinion of Super 17. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.